Alright, it's time for Game Boy games. I don't have the boxes or manuals for any of these because they were thrown out by small children. So I'll make this brief. The first games I want to go over are the games by... Actually, I'm just going to make this a video about this topic because there's not much else on the Game Boy Advance that I physically own. The games of R&D 1. That is the studio that used to be headed by Gunpei Yokoi that developed the Game Boy, and the Game Boy Advance era. These guys were on fire, making hit after hit after hit. All of their games for the Game Boy Advance were awesome, and this was one of the last systems where they had a good variety of games and really had a great amount of games. Like they put out a lot of stuff. I guess I'll go over them in order, or just like show them off. There's Wario Land 4. There's Metroid Fusion. Didn't focus. Come on. Okay, whatever, doesn't matter too much. Metroid Fusion. This one's a bit of a beat-up copy, but Warioware Mega Micro Games Inc. Metroid Zero Mission. This is a reproduction copy because my original one, the battery fucked up. And Warioware Twisted, which is the follow-up, the true follow-up to WarioWare. And these games have one thing in common: they are all very strange. I mean, I guess the Metroid games aren't as weird, but they peddle this idea of just being very creative and imaginative, taking old ideas and just making them new again, whether it be remaking Metroid and making it a completely new experience, taking the Super Metroid formula and turning it on its head, making a Mario-like platformer, but like the ultimate evolution of that Wario style of just twisting it and making it about Wario's heavier character and just getting money. A completely new type of game that had never been seen before with WarioWare Mega Micro Games, and just little bite-sized fun, creating an entirely different world. And oh my god, I am so bad at this, at fucking stepping on the cord that I have connected to this tripod. And Warioware Twisted, they innovated with the motion sensor, which had been done before with Kirby Tilt and Tumble, but taking it and applying it to the idea of WarioWare and just making that fresh. And expanding on that weird world from the first game. They're all innovative, and it's funny that the part of Nintendo that created the Game Boy really went out with a bang on their last Game Boy system, because R&D 3, the main Mario and Zelda guys, didn't put that much into the Game Boy Advance. They were pretty feverishly working on GameCube games because those were more important, because the Game Boy Advance was really successful and didn't really need the extra push. I'll talk about these individually. I guess I'll go from oldest to newest. I'll start with Wario Land 4. This is one of my favorite video games ever made. It's so fun to replay over and over again. The action is just amazing. The platforming feels so good. I love collecting stuff in this game. Wario, the graphics are amazingly creative and imaginative. They're probably some of my favorites, and considering this came out in the launch window, it's very impressive that they had a great title that beautiful super early on. The game's extremely weird. I adore all the little touches they add and the mystery of it all. There's so much mystique going into this, and the presentation of the game, I had talked about this before, but the opening cutscene is so new and brings up so many questions, but makes you go into the game with a different feeling. It's less about Wario, this greedy macho man. I'm this greedy, like, disgusting business guy. More about him as, like, a treasure hunter. Like, this freaking dude who just doesn't give a shit and just goes around busting people up to get treasure. Normally that action focus doesn't appeal to me, but with Wario, he's just such a weird character that I adore it. In interviews for this game, you can see they're really bringing Wario into his own, and they acknowledge that in the interview. And this game's, I guess, follow-up, Warioware, he takes a different character. And while that's cool for itself, it really tainted the public's opinion on Wario and made this game kind of be a bit of a evolutionary dead end. Like, there was Shake It for the Wii, and that kind of captured things, but it still just wasn't on this tier. It wasn't Nintendo R&D one doing their best. The shoulder bash and the running in this game is amazing. I absolutely adore it. And the music is also fantastic. Some of it has lyrics, which for a Game Boy Advance game, they were trying to really prove that the GBA could do sound quality could do like little MIDI samples with Zelda, Link to the Past, and Mario Advance having voice clips. But this game uses it the best because it makes the weird nature and the weird atmosphere of the game even thicker by introducing music that's unlike anything else seen before then or on the Game Boy since. I guess since this is the last Game Boy system, so it doesn't really matter. Let's see. The next, I'll talk about the Wario games and the Metroid games. Warioware Inc. This is a little mini-game compilation in a way, but it's way more than that. It's about being told how to do something and then having like 5 seconds to do it. So you're given a task and you're thrown out into the dark trying to figure it out. This game was emblematic of a different Nintendo that these guys worked on this game sort of in secret. It wasn't a huge thing. They started with there's 10 minigames like this in Mario Artist, the 3D version, where you could put your own character in, and it was the same idea, little bite-sized minigames, didn't really give you a clue until you beat them. But they took that idea and made 100 micro games. There's a crazy amount. And it really shows with how this game is kind of a bit of a B-tier title in terms of quality. The cutscenes look very strange. There's a lot of reused sound effects, and some of the minigames are even taken from that 64DD title. But I think it's more than the sum of its parts because it's a unique experience, and I feel like everyone should play a WarioWare game at some point. This is definitely not the best one. It's one of my least favorite ones, if I'm being frank. Touched is a little bit worse, but this one isn't lighting the world on fire. But it's cool that they were able to do that. And that was definitely because it wasn't a huge title. They just sort of released it. It wasn't a huge thing. But, I don't know. I feel like they would definitely regulate it a lot more because the depiction of things in this is just so weird that they would not get away with this again. I mean, they did make a series and it became its own thing. But if they had a new idea like this, I feel like it wouldn't be as... I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking about business, politics I don't know enough about. That game's follow-up, WarioWare Twisted, for the Game Boy Advance, obviously, is a great sequel. It uses the Game Boy Advance's unique shape, I guess. Like, if this was a Game Boy card, it'd be a little bit weird. It uses an accelerometer, so it can tell when you're going left or right, with like Mercury or some shit like that. This game is fantastic. It's a more polished version of WarioWare. The cutscenes look way better. The menus look beautiful, and there's all these little gadgets and little things you can do. It feels like more of a complete package. This game is way better than the first one, and is a contender for the best WarioWare game. It's very close between this, Smooth Moves, and DIY, but this one in itself is a great title. Wasn't released in Europe for some reason. And through this, you can sort of see the Wario idea. Like, throughout the Game Boy era, they were making weird Mario games that evolved into Wario games. And even now, they're going even further with that, taking even the platforming aspect out until you get a title that's 100% about experimentation and new ideas. And while I love Wario Land 4, it's cool that they were able to express themselves in that way. For Metroid, it's a similar story with breaking out of conventions. R&D 1 created Metroid, so it's cool that they were able to expand it. In 2002, when this game released, it was the same day as Metroid Prime. and both titles completely reinvented the Metroid formula. Prime was 3D, and this one took the conventions and really made you question. Like, they changed them so much. It was linear, which, unlike the other Metroid games, you couldn't do everything out of order. And they built that into the story. Your agency's taken away. There's a lot more difficulty, and it's just very strange, but also story-focused in a way that Super Metroid wasn't. And I think that makes it a great contemporary and a great follow-up. This is the kind of follow-up I love, when they take the things about the original and change some of them. And that could have been a bad prospect. Like with Metroid Other M, they definitely fucked up with changing too much and not leaving what was great. But at the end of the day, this is still a great Metroid game. Metroid Zero Mission, this is probably my least favorite of R&D 1's titles, besides maybe the original WarioWare. This is a good recreation of Metroid 1. Definitely changes a lot of things, has some good action. The art style is kind of ugly. Same with the music, it's not as appealing as Metroid Fusion or even Super Metroid. I feel like this game it's cool. I'm glad that people like it. People that say this is the only good Metroid game are crazy. It's good, but it's not amazing. I think the thing that I don't like about it is that for this point in R&D 1's time, it's very uncreative. It definitely takes liberties, but compared to something like Fusion, it plays it a lot more safe. And this was the last 2D Metroid game for a long time. I don't really know why. It was probably because the DS was all 3D, and Metroid Dread was a thing that was supposed to happen, a 2D Metroid game. I guess Dread and Fusion, I can see those being similar, like Metroid 5 as it were. But to me, this is a way better game.